the leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry, or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was
was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Now get
Prepare yourself.
Okay, let's go.
From a studio deep in the heart of Texas,
you're not going to believe the garbage that fell out of his mouth.
The voice of the working man.
This clown had the audacity to say that.
It's the Gavin Mitchell Show.
It's not a race issue. It's a First Amendment issue, and we all just need to understand it.
And now, here's your host, Gavin Mitchell.
Does anyone feel like I do? Like maybe they just spent the $59.99 to buy the heavyweight fight on pay-per-view, and it was a first-round knockout after the New Hampshire primary. There were just two good old-fashioned beatdowns that went on, so much so that every major news outlet called the races about 10 minutes into coverage. Hillary Clinton got shellacked. Let's use Donald Trump's term, schlonged. So Bernie Sanders and Trump come out miles ahead of everybody else. We're definitely going to get into that today. The Supreme Court steps up and does something good for a change. They're starting to peck away at this. They're starting to figure it out. And then I want to talk a little bit about Iran again today. They are in the news according to Breitbart, and not such good things being said. Welcome to the Gavin Mitchell Show. I am Gavin Mitchell. It is the morning after the primaries, and man, am I tired. I stayed up way too late trying to find out who was in second place, but we are going to get to all of that after the break. Right now, I want to talk Iran, and we know about the deal that this president has brokered with the leading state sponsor of terrorism. We know that he is pro-Muslim. Through and through, we know that he is pro-Iran. He has structured a deal that not only gives them $150 billion, it lifts sanctions, and it allows them to create nuclear weapons. All the while, they take and keep American citizens hostage. We don't fight to get them back. They shoot missiles at our naval fleet. We do not respond. They kidnap our sailors, United States naval sailors, at gunpoint, and publish embarrassing, degrading photos of them on their knees with their hands behind their head at gunpoint. They publish photos of our female sailor in a hijab, and we do not respond. And then, because they're just gracious people, they let out of prison a few of the hostages that they should have never had, in exchange for 3 times the same amount of prisoners we have. But the difference is our prisoners, the Iranian citizens that we had in prison, went through due process. They just weren't detained and locked up. They went through due process and were found guilty or were awaiting trial. But none of that matters to this administration. He seems to think that in order for the United States to be successful and this world to be a safer place, we've got to play nice. We've got to bow down. We've got to cower down. And that's simply not the case. He couldn't be more wrong about this, just like he's wrong about a number of things. And I've got another example today. But Breitbart comes out today, and here is the article. I'm just going to read you the first very small paragraph. The title says, Iran, we still fund Hamas. Fighting Israel is our principal policy.
And the article begins, Tel Aviv. Tehran rebutted a Hamas official's claim that the terror group has not received money from Iran since 2009, saying it continues to fund Hamas because fighting Israel is Iran's principled policy. And it goes on to give examples. And some of the examples, what's happened here is a head Hamas figure. And let's be clear about what Hamas is. That is a bunch of barbaric, terroristic animals. That's what they are. They are just as bad, if not worse, than this ISIS group that will inflict their way of life on you, period. They don't care what it takes. And if you don't succumb, if you don't convert, they'll just kill you. And a Hamas leader has come out and said, no, we haven't gotten any money from Iran since like 2009. Well, Iran is screaming, jumping up and down, saying, that's not true. We fund y'all guys like crazy. And so Breitbart Jerusalem does a little digging, and they find sources out of Hamas that said, hey, these tunnels, and if you'll remember, this is something Ted Cruz was big on the Senate floor, because they've got the dome over, the Iron Dome over Jerusalem, over Israel, because the Palestinians would shoot rockets over. And this Iron Dome is a missile defense system that can pick those rockets off in midair and protect. It creates this Iron Dome over Israel. And while all of that discussion was going on, are we going to fund it? Are we not going to fund it? We learned that the Palestinians and Hamas have actually tunneled under the borders, if you will, and those change daily. I get it. It's two sides fighting, but tunnels deep into Israel. So that these soldiers can get it. And they finished ahead of time. And a Hamas leader was claimed to thank Iran because it was their generous support. It sounds like a PBS, a public broadcasting service commercial. But thanks to their generous support, they were able to get it done. They were able to tunnel in. Now, this is Iran. They have come out and said unequivocally, and they even went so far as to refute an official from Hamas who says we haven't been funded. They said, no, we have. We have funded them, and we funded them greatly because all we care about is defeating Israel. That's all we care about. That is priority numero uno, defeat Israel at all costs, because that's what we as a Muslim state do. We destroy the Judeo-Christians because we feel like they're occupying our holy land, and we're not going to stand for it. And so you bet your bottom dollar, if we've got $1 to give, we're giving it to Hamas because that is their goal. That is what they're doing. That is what they're on this earth to do, according to them. Does anybody else have a problem with this? Does anybody else have a problem with this president superseding, not even superseding, bypassing, dodging the checks that Congress has on him by the Constitution and striking a deal with a state that is the #1 terror sponsor in the world? And here is proof. And cut a deal with these guys that lifts the sanctions, that makes it hard for them, that gives them $150 billion to do what they want. And what do they give us? The promise to self-inspect their nuclear program, which isn't supposed to exist. And they're constantly violating the agreement. Remember the ballistic missile shot at our sailors? They say it wasn't at our sailors, but it was. They were warning shots. And this president goes out there and does this. And they're so in your face about it that they're not afraid to publish the pictures embarrassing our sailors. They're not afraid to shoot the missiles. They're not afraid to take American citizens and hold them hostage. And now they are not afraid to come out in the international media and say, yeah, we fund those guys. Absolutely we do, because that's what we're all about. We're all about death and destruction and forcing our way of life on other people, whether they like it or not. That's who we are. We've got T-shirts made. That's who we are. And this president's okay with that. And he's going to stand there and lie to your face talking about what a great deal this is with Iran. What happened to not negotiating with terrorists? I'm baffled by it. But as things like that come up, I feel like it needs your attention. Meanwhile, Obama's not out of the news yet. The Supreme Court steps up. And if you'll recall, it was a big deal. Obama's all about the renewable energy because of climate change. And if you don't buy into climate change, even though 90% of scientists that study that field have come out and said there's no evidence supporting it. It's not that it's not true. It's not that it's not possible. We just don't have enough evidence to say yes. We don't even have enough evidence to say probably not the alternative, which is good scientific method. You create a hypothesis opposite of what you want, and you try to disprove that hypothesis. Well, we can't. We can't come up with anything. But in a power grab by this administration, and that's all this is. It's a power grab over dollars. He decided to sign with his pen again in executive order. This lawless president uses the pen to do what he wants and bypasses Congress, just like with the Iran deal, and decides that in 2022, that year, that the compliance period will start, but by the end of September, the EPA needs states' plans on how they're going to curb emissions with power plant regulation. And all this is attacking the coal industry. That's all this is. It is a flat-out attack on coal-producing states, coal-producing economies, fossil fuels, because they, quote, put off these carbon emissions. When science says the fact of the matter that over 80% of carbon emissions happen naturally anyway, and we need carbon monoxide to make it rain. We need carbon monoxide for plants to breathe. They breathe in carbon monoxide, breathe out oxygen. We do the opposite. It's a nice little cycle God created here. But because humans are such horrible people, and this president is so wise, wiser than the scientific community, he decided with the pen to strike out this. And he went on network TV. I want to say it's ABC, but don't quote me on that. And he said, look, you want to run a coal plant, you go right ahead. But I'm going to make it so expensive because of fines and fees and licensing that you need that you're going to go under quick. He unequivocally, he came out and said, that's just how it works. I can't make you shut it down, but I can charge the mess out of you in statutory fees that it's just not going to be worth it. You are going to give in to my way, or there's going to be no way. He's all about this renewable energy. Well, why? Because there is a lot of money in it if we go that way, and I guarantee he has got ties. He is being leaned on by those lobbyists, and that's just how government works, and that's why we're so sick of it. So, this lawsuit was filed by 27 Republican-led states, and the appeals court, the federal appeals court, said, no, we can't strike that down. Daddy Obama will get us. So it goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, look, in order to implement this, it is going to cost a lot of money. So until we find out whether this move by the command-in-chief is legal or not, we're going to push pause. So this isn't enforceable yet. It's not going to work yet. We're going to push pause, and we're going to see what happens. And so this is a small victory for those of us who believe in free commerce, for those of us who believe in capitalism, for those of us that believe the government doesn't get to do whatever they want, whenever they want. And it's a great move. We'll see where it goes from here. But if you look, the amnesty law that the president wrote into law via executive order has been struck down. This power plant regulation deal is being struck down. It's a shame that it takes all this money and effort to fight these things just to get the president to follow the laws of the United States. It's a shame that we have to drag it into the Supreme Court to say, hey, he can't do this, because he seems to think he can. He seems to think that Constitution applies to who he wants, when he wants. And if you don't like it, that's just tough. That's tough cookies, and you're just going to have to deal with it. So a great move by the Supreme Court. I hope that once it gets into court, that they'll strike it down and we can continue to try to rebuild this country from this devastation that this president has just shoved down our throat. That's going to do it for segment one, folks. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get into the debate hot and heavy on the other side of the break. I am Gavin Mitchell. This is the Gavin Mitchell Show.
Today's episode of The Gavin Mitchell Show is brought to you by Pinnacle Voice Studios and Sound Productions. Find us on the web at pinnaclevoice.com. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey, everybody, it's Chris Salcedo from the Blaze Radio Network. You are listening to The Gavin Mitchell Show.
All right, as promised, I think I said we're going to get into the debate just before the break. That's not true. We're going to get into the New Hampshire primary. That's what we're all about today. So forgive me for the misspeak, but as you know, the first primary of the election season went on last night in New Hampshire. We had the caucus in Iowa prior to, but we've got the primary that went on in New Hampshire. But before we get there, a little housekeeping. I want to remind you that you can find us on the web, www.thegavinmitchellshow.com. You can email me directly anytime. Would love to hear from you. I will respond, I promise you. Gavin at thegavinmitchellshow.com. We are on Twitter at The GM Show. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/The Gavin Mitchell Show. A lot of ways to get a hold of us. You can subscribe to the podcast via iTunes. I would love for you to subscribe there. We're on Spreaker. Remember, we're making that push for iHeartRadio, but I've got some interesting news on that, but would still love to have you follow us. We're on TuneIn as well. Now, I need to take a few minutes here, folks, and I'll try to be as brief as I can. In life, you get real lucky sometimes with the people that are in your life and the people that you associate with. And I'm one of those guys without question. You hear me talk about Ron, my producer, and man, people like that are 1 in 10 million. And I love the guy. I love his family. And it was his hard work that I found out yesterday that starting February 27th at 8 p.m. on Saturdays, and we'll run every Saturday, one of the stations here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area has picked up our show. So the Gavin Mitchell Show will be on a terrestrial station here in the 5th largest market in the country on Saturday nights. And that's kudos to Ron, and I'm so grateful for him, and just what an awesome opportunity. So if you are in the Dallas area, please tune into that. And I would be remiss if I didn't reach out and give a big thank you to Matt Locke from the Matt Locke Show. He had a lot to do with that being successful as well. I'm humbled by it. I'm humbled by it because in my mind, I'm just some guy behind a microphone running his mouth. And I hope it's relevant. I hope it means something to you. And so thanks to those guys, we're going to be able to expand the show in a great, great way. And man, I'm stoked about it. So thank you, Ron. Thank you to Ron's family, and thanks, Matt. It's a big deal for us. So let's transition into the primaries last night. Now, before we even get deep into this, what do the primaries mean? At least the New Hampshire primary. What does it mean? Not a lot, but there are some things we can take out of this. And I find it just absolutely fascinating that the Huffington Post comes out this morning. And their headline reads, New Hampshire goes racist, sexist, and xenophobic. And they have a picture of Donald Trump. That is awesome. This liberal left-wing media piece of garbage just decides to blast Donald Trump because he won in New Hampshire. Now, the final numbers were Trump won 35%. He more than doubled Kasich. And then Cruz came in third. On the left, Sanders had 60% of the votes, and he won by right at 21%. That is fascinating to me because leading up to this, the Clinton campaign, now Sanders invested a lot in New Hampshire, and he wasn't supposed to be anywhere around, but we've talked about him kind of gaining stride, and I think it is the result of a lack of an alternative to Clinton because she can't be trusted. At least that's how voters feel. And so the lack of the alternative leads people to leaning towards Bernie Sanders. And like with any conspiracy theory, if you listen long enough and you're open-minded enough, people can argue their way into where you say, you know what, maybe. And I don't know. I'll have to dig into that. But when you take people at their word and you take the facts at their word, it's not hard to form a good sounding argument. The problem is when you get the real facts, you realize socialism is a train wreck waiting to happen. It's how empires are toppled. And that's what Bernie Sanders represents. And I mentioned the numbers yesterday. At least on the surface, Americans are less likely to elect a socialist than any other demographic out there. But it's the only alternative for the left. And so that's why Bernie Sanders put a whipping on Hillary Clinton. And the Clinton campaign's worried, folks, because it was neck and neck, too close to call. I mean, decimal points separated the two in Iowa. And now she gets thumped in New Hampshire. And her only hope is that her money and her machine that is the Clinton campaign will be able to handle Super Tuesday better than Bernie Sanders and his resources. That's her only hope. My hope is that she's in prison at that point. That's just me. Moreover, she had Madeleine Albright come out, and Madeleine Albright said unequivocally, there is a place in hell waiting for you if you do not support Hillary Clinton, because women should support women. And that's her talking to women out there. Well, what if you're educated, Miss Albright? And what if you have collected the facts and you look at them objectively and you realize Hillary Clinton is a felon? She is unqualified. She is a train wreck. She is everything bad that a politician is. What if you've come to that conclusion? Is there still a warm place in hell for me? The fact that crap like that can be ran out there and the media, they brush on it and then they sweep it under the rug. They never get into it. They never hold Hillary Clinton accountable, and it's disgusting. But let's get to the left, because there's a lot of things working there. Cruz did not put money, time, and effort in New Hampshire. He just didn't. And for him to come out in third place is a big win. Where conversely, Governor Kasich did. He put in a great amount of resources. He was all in on New Hampshire, and it showed. It showed that when he puts his money in his time, the problem is he doesn't have the resources to continue that fight. And so while Kasich had a little blip on the radar last night, he's going to fade, and he's going to fade fast. All this did was keep him in the race a little longer. It's like somebody that's horrible at golf, but you hit that one good shot, it keeps you coming back. That's what's going on with Kasich. Kasich is a non-factor. He's an idiot. He's a liberal cloaked in Republican clothing, and he needs to go. But unfortunately, because he invested so much in New Hampshire, he's not going anywhere. Cruz, on the other hand, didn't invest anything. I think he had one very small shop with 10 or 12 volunteers, and that was his New Hampshire push, and he finished third. So Trump won in a landslide. He's starting to figure out this campaign thing, and these two titans are headed towards each other in South Carolina because they both put money and effort in South Carolina. We've got a great ex-military demographic down there that seems to support Trump because of what he did in Iowa rather than going to the debate. We also have a strong evangelical push in South Carolina, which favors Cruz. We have good Southern people who believe in the Constitution and they want a conservative. And so this is going to be a showdown. But historically, South Carolina is where the gloves come off. And I think this is why, and it's going to happen here. Because unlike going into Iowa or New Hampshire, we have real data now. These candidates are starting to realize that they need votes, and they need votes bad. Their campaign is on life support, or these candidates pick up a little momentum and they might be doing better than they had. And so wherever you're at, whether you have a real chance at winning or you're on life support, you've got to go full throttle at this point because Super Tuesday is around the corner, and that's where the rubber really hits the road. So the fact that these candidates know where they stand because of votes, not because of speculation or polls, it gets very serious. Now let's talk Chris Christie real quick. Chris Christie is, quote, going home to take a deep breath. He got plummeted. He finished sixth. He's not going to be welcome in the next debate this coming Saturday night or Thursday night. He's not going to be welcome to the debate because he didn't qualify, and it's Saturday night. Forgive me for that. He finished 6th, and after a 10th place finish in Iowa, he's just not on the radar. Carson, Fiorona, they're out. They just need to get out, right? But Christie in the last debate, it's like he was all in. He pushed all in, and he thought that the way he was going to get there was attacking Rubio, and he did. It was an all-out assault. We've talked about it, talking about a robot this, robot that, and we'll talk about how Rubio responded here in a second, but I think he had to know that even though he put all that time and all that money in New Hampshire, that it wasn't looking good for him. And so what was the point in all that Rubio attack? It was a couple things. Either one, it's gotten personal with Chris Christie. It may have. 2, he's looking to the future. Maybe he's looking for a VP slot, and he wanted to get his shots in on Rubio. Maybe he's looking for a cabinet position. I don't know. But it doesn't make a lot of sense because the 6th place finish, while it might have surprised the Christie campaign, I don't think it surprised any of us. And so, he's going home to take a deep breath. I would be surprised if we saw Governor Christie back out on the campaign trail again. He's just done. He's done. And while we thought that this was going to be a 2, maybe 3-person race, here comes Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush finished strong. He's moving in the right direction. He's trending in the right direction, and so he's not going anywhere. He feels like the South is where his bread and butter is. He's an ex-Florida governor, and so he's here, and he's starting to poll better. He's starting to do better in these primaries because he's no longer the punching bag for Trump. He's willing to fire back. He's willing to have a backbone, and that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, Rubio took, he took a lumping, and it's directly related to a couple things. One, he's been exposed for what he is. He gives the canned answers. He's coached. He's prepped up. And it's always an attack on the administration and Hillary Clinton, and that's fine. They should be attacked. But he's not in the here and now. He's not debating the issues that are in front of him. He's not debating the issues that are important to the debate at that time. He just spins it into his canned answer, and Chris Christie completely exposed him for that. And so this robotic Marco Rubio's out there, and everybody's talking about it. He doesn't think on his feet. He doesn't have what it takes, so on and so forth. Moreover, Breitbart comes out with that piece about Rubio's legacy and what has he done, and he has flip-flopped on amnesty, and that's serious. That's serious, but when you start putting all these things together, the accumulation of little things isn't little. Now, the Rubio camp, he's come out and said, no, I'm going to continue to repeat what I'm saying because I believe it, and I've got no problem with that. I don't care really if he has canned answers. What I care about is what is his answer. Does he stick by what he says, and can he lead this country? Unfortunately, his record says he doesn't stand by what he says, and that leaves me concerned, to say the least, is that he doesn't do what he says. He flip-flopped on amnesty. He was an author of the Gang of 8 bill. There's just so many things. He's an absentee senator. That's huge. And the list goes on and on. We talked about it in depth. But he went on every talk show he could get on and said, look, that's my fault. I had a poor debate outing. I'm telling you, I don't think it was the poor debate outing. I think he finally got exposed for what he is. It's something this show's been screaming about for weeks now. They're canned answers. He flip-flops on amnesty. His track record isn't conservative, and that's not what America wants. He's turning out to be a Republican Barack Obama. And I hate to say it because I like the guy. I think he's sharp. But that's what he is. He doesn't vote, so he can't have a record to be criticized. Make no mistake about it. That's why he does it. And so we're headed south. We're headed to South Carolina for the GOP. The Democrats will move out to Nevada. Then the week after, it's March 1st, I believe. Don't take that to the bank, but I believe it's March 1st. Will be the Super Tuesday primary, and that's where the rubber hits the road, right there. I want to talk a little election, a little update on what is going on in this crazy election cycle. If you paid attention to the news yesterday, Fiorina and Chris Christie decided to suspend their campaign, and they are officially out. And I don't think this comes to a surprise to anybody, to be quite frank with you. We knew that there were a lot of candidates coming out of Iowa and New Hampshire, these first two true elections. There just aren't enough votes to go around. And the writing's on the wall for Chris Christie. He put in so much money and so much time in New Hampshire and just came out completely unsuccessful. And he was all in. He was all in from the debate, attacking Marco Rubio, trying to gain some ground there. And then dumping the money and time and resources in New Hampshire only to finish sixth and then not qualify for the debate. Same thing for Carly Fiorina. They're done. They're done, and that's okay. Neither one are bad people. Both of them may have a role as we move forward in this campaign, but it's just not their time to be president. Now, what does that leave us with? That definitely leaves us with this three-headed monster right now, and there's kind of a question mark there with Rubio. Is he legit? Is he strong? Is he as strong as he was in Iowa in the southern states? That's the question we've got to find out. But South Carolina is shaping up to be an all-out battle between Trump and Cruz, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see that play out, because when Trump's involved, nothing's boring. But when it's this serious and it means this much to both candidates, it's going to be outstanding entertainment. My hope is that they don't destroy each other to the point where the party is so divided that come general election time, we can't mend it to win the White House. Is Rubio part of that discussion? That's what we find out in South Carolina. I mean, that's exactly what it is. We have Jeb Bush, who's hanging around. He refuses to give up. He did a little better in New Hampshire than he did in Iowa. I think this is going to be the telltale for him. I don't know how much longer people are going to continue to feed that machine money without seeing legitimate results. Governor Kasich he did great in New Hampshire, but he was all in New Hampshire like Christie was, but he got the results. And I heard him on an interview, last night, I believe, and he's like, hey, the Midwest United States is where I'm really going to excel, but it's a long road to get there. It's a really long road to get there, and it's a long road to survive, to last that long. And so I don't see Kasich making it that far. I definitely think he'll hold out all the way through Super Tuesday without a question. I believe that's real. I believe that's legit, but I don't see him having the resources and having the results to get the resources to make it that far. All of that is awesome, but here's where I want to turn today. I want to look to the left, because it's such an interesting dynamic that this socialist, Bernie Sanders, was so far behind Hillary Clinton that even on this show, I mocked the Democratic Party for running him out there, for asking, is that the best we could do? Could we at least put somebody up out there that can pretend to be a real contender so this thing doesn't look so rigged, so it doesn't look so fixed? We all know that Hillary Clinton is the chosen candidate for the left. We all get that. But could we put somebody out there that at least resembles a legitimate candidate? That was my request. And then lo and behold, Hillary Clinton shoots herself in the foot with the Benghazi thing, with the email thing, and loses all credibility with most of the voters. She's lost everybody from the middle right, and she's lost over half of those on the left because nobody trusts her. Nobody believes anything that comes out of her mouth is accurate or honest. It's all manipulation and lies, and there's a hidden agenda in everything she does. She has lost all credibility with the voters. And I believe because of that, the only alternative is Bernie Sanders, and now we got a race. We had an effective tie in Iowa. Bernie Sanders shellacks her, let's use a Donald Trump term, schlongs her in New Hampshire. And the news out of that is, and I saw some headlines, and I haven't researched it, I don't know that it's accurate, but that they get the same amount of delegates coming out of New Hampshire. That can't be right. You can't have a beatdown like that and come out with the same delegates. The point of the matter is, they're headed south. And now this is a real fight. This is a real campaign, and we've got a real election going on the left. Bernie Sanders is no longer that joke I portrayed him to be. He's legitimate. Now, with his issues and his stances and his platforms and his policies, he's absolutely a joke. He's absolutely anti-American, 120%. The very definition of socialism is anti-American. And it's disgusting if you love this country. It's disgusting if you believe in capitalism. And it's a sad day when our country is so distraught and we're so, it's just so off kilter that socialism is a real choice for some people. Because if you look at anywhere socialism has existed, it has turned out bad. And the latest example is Venezuela and Germany. I mean, just look at what's going on. Do you really want a part of that? But we have these young people that are finally in a position to make something of their lives, and all the economic projections say that for the first time ever, this generation is not going to be as successful in the ways that we grade success here in this culture as the previous generation. And that is a shocking reality. And if ever there was an indictment to hand down to this administration, that is it. And it's because of this administration and everything they've done that we get these extreme positions, these extreme candidates from Donald Trump all the way to Bernie Sanders and everywhere in between. I mean, if ever you wanted a perfect dichotomy of what the spectrum is politically here in the United States, just look at this election, because every base is covered. So the left is moving on to Nevada and then on to South Carolina for the next primaries. And it is becoming ever clear that the African-American vote is what is going to swing this election. Bernie Sanders has the young people. Hillary Clinton has the old. The females are not flocking to Hillary Clinton like she would like. And when you chop it up, it's pretty close to a 50-50 run everywhere we go. Clinton leads some areas, Sanders leads some, but on the whole, it's a closer race than it should be. And this demographic of the African-American voters is what's going to swing this race. And so Hillary Clinton gets up on stage and starts talking about it's the Black Lives Matters argument. I'm tired of people being persecuted and shot, innocent people shot because of the color of their skin. And it's got to stop, and police brutality, and on and on and on. She sounded just like the Black Lives Matter group. And it's a complete play to the African-American vote. Well, Bernie Sanders at the same time makes a stop in Harlem, where he grew up there in New York City, and meets with none other than Al Sharpton. This domestic terrorist, this clown, my gosh. And if you follow Al Sharpton at all, does this guy ever miss the opportunity to fan the flames when racial tensions are high? Does he ever miss the opportunity to jump in the pool and cause some waves when there's just a hint that black people might have been wronged, or that somebody even had the thought of black versus white? He is one of these domestic terrorists, and I say it because he is always quick to fan the flames. He is always quick to jump in the middle and stir the pot and cause problems, and he forces the African-American community into this victim stance. He doesn't respect his own community as individuals equal in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the community. He always makes sure that they are victims and that they cannot stand on their own 2 feet, because if they could, it's no longer a racial issue, and Al Sharpton becomes irrelevant. So he has to have these racial issues. And Bernie Sanders buys into this hook, line, and sinker. And what do you expect from a guy who believes socialism is the answer? So he goes and meets with Al Sharpton, trying to convince Al Sharpton that I need you. I need you badly. And so here's Crystal Wright, editor of the blog Conservative Black Chick. Here's her commentary, and it's a couple paragraphs long, but it is worth mentioning. Sanders represents one of the whitest states, Vermont, and while he won the New Hampshire primary, virtually all white states, Sanders needs the minority vote to win the Democratic nomination because 44% of Democratic voters aren't white. Hillary is leading Sanders in the minority vote by 40% and has 9 out of every 10 black voters supporting her. Sanders' solution is to fly to Harlem to have breakfast with the race hustler Sharpton, who never met a racial riot or protest he didn't want to incite. Man, that sounds like exactly what I just said. How insulting to blacks that Sanders thinks that all he has to do is meet with a buffoon like Sharpton, so Sharpton will tell blacks to vote for Sanders because he said so. And that is, my goodness, isn't that it right there? We finally have people who are on both sides of the issue. People who are both white, black, Hispanic, Asian, finally standing up. We have liberals and we have conservatives standing up and saying, enough with the race. Enough. Enough with the race hustling. Enough with making everybody a victim. Enough with all of it. How about we stand up and we talk about issues? How about we quit being victims and we talk as equals? And Sharpton can't have that. That would blow up this entire dynasty that he has. If you remember, he ran for president in 2004 and just got devastated. He was just a complete joke. And so here we are, and this Sanders seems to think that all he has to do is get Sharpton to talk to him. But here's the news flash. The black community's had enough of being the victim. The black community is divided as much as the Republican Party ever has been, in that half of them are still victims. It's the Black Lives Matters group. But the other half saying, no, you know what, enough. We've got solutions. We've got a voice. We're going to stand up and we're going to speak it. Our vote equals a white person's vote, and enough with the racial issues. And that's exactly what needs to happen. We need to stop being a racist country by no longer being racist. Don't go anywhere. On the other side, we're going to get into some First Amendment issues, and you know where I stand on that. Decided to get into it. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you on the other side.
Today's episode of The Gavin Mitchell Show is brought to you by Pinnacle Voice Studios and Sound Productions. Find us on the web at pinnaclevoice.com. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey, everybody, it's Chris Salcedo from the Blaze Radio Network. You are listening to The Gavin Mitchell Show.
All right, so I don't like to jump on local stories all that often. I'd much rather stick to issues that apply to everybody within the sound of my voice. And being a podcast, we shoot around the world, right? But we can't talk world issues all the time. And so I really try to focus on a national level and talk about national issues, national stories, national politics. But here in Dallas, we've got a story that it's worth mentioning. It's worth talking about. And then do not forget Conservative Radio Network. Ron and his guys are launching that as we speak. They are cleaning up the website, and it will be up and running here very soon. Excited to be a part of that on the ground level. It's going to be the very best in conservative talk. Ron has done a great job and could not be more excited to be a part of that. So in Dallas, I'm trying to think of how to approach this. I'm going to give you the facts first. This previous year, there was a thing called the Exotica Expo, and it's EXXX, so there's triple X in Exotica Expo, and it's exactly what you think it would be. It is a sex conference. It's a sex business expo. And this expo landed at the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, which is in downtown Dallas, and they did their thing. They had their expo, they had their weekend conference, whatever goes on there, right? The city council came out, and Mayor Mike Rawlings came out and said, you know what, I can't do this. I can't support this. And while I could disagree with some of the things he said, and I don't know if he saw it firsthand or he heard a story about it or where it landed, but I saw it here on the local affiliate, WFAA Channel 8, where he was testifying during the city council meeting that he walked downstairs to a dungeon area, and saw women strapped up, tied up, and being whipped. And that's the straw that broke the camel's back for him. He just couldn't stand for that. And so the city council took testimony from citizens, and they don't want that in their city. And they all testified that we really would like the city council to vote to ban this expo. And the only person to speak for the expo was the founder, the guy who organized the event. And he's like, yeah, I want to do it. And so the city council voted 8-7 to ban the Exotica Expo from the city-owned and ran Dallas Convention Center, which is named the K. Bailey Hutchinson Center. So there's the facts of the story. Now, as a citizen and as a Christian, and I am Southern Baptist through and through, I don't want that in my community. You can go anywhere in the world, right? You can go to cities that promote that sort of thing. And traditionally, that type of thing is welcomed in Nevada and in Las Vegas, right? It's always welcome there. Why bring it to Dallas? And that's kind of the question. Now, there are reasons people have their expos in Dallas because it's centrally located. You can get to it from anywhere in the country in a 3-hour flight. The airport is a major hub internationally. There are a lot of good reasons to meet in Dallas logistically. I want to come back around to where I land on this after telling you about a court case that you will hear me reference a lot. And it comes from a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and it's Texas versus Johnson. And here's what happened. Gregory Lee Johnson, back when the Republican National Convention was held in Dallas in 1984, Johnson was outside the convention. He was upset like people get during these things, and he decided to light an American flag on fire right there in the streets. Well, he was arrested, and the question, the issue that came up was whether burning the flag constitutes symbolic speech or not. It's a First Amendment issue. You will not find an American who loves this country, who understands the blessings we have in this country, who is for this type of behavior. You think about all the people that have died and all the people who have sacrificed their lives and what that flag stands for. And to have somebody burn that flag in the streets of a major American city is absolutely unacceptable. But here's what the Supreme Court ruled in a 7-3 voting. The majority noted that freedom of speech protects actions that society may find very offensive, but society's outrage alone is not justification for suppressing free speech. And that is the truth, folks. The truth of the matter is that just because I don't like it, and just because you don't like it, doesn't mean we can suppress free speech. I am positive that every one of those Supreme Court justices found that behavior offensive. I am positive that every one of them thought that that was disgusting, and that guy that lit that flag on fire was an ungrateful SOB. That he had this air about him that he's entitled to burn the very symbol of our freedom, and the only reason he gets to do it is because of the freedom, but he's not smart enough to connect the dots. He's a sorry POS is what he is. But the great thing about this country is that clause in the First Amendment of freedom of speech says you have a right to be an idiot. You have a right to be an a-hole. As long as it's not certain things, hate speech, so on and so forth. But this demonstration is protected. And so I bring that back around to what is going on here in Dallas. The citizens do not like what this expo is. And the city council has voted. And as a Christian, I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate what they're doing. This is not supporting the principles that are Christianity. This isn't, it's just a bad deal if you're a true Christian, and that's what Dallas is. It's a big piece of it. But the problem is that this facility is government ran. And the government absolutely cannot, and we have seen it time after time after time, suppress speech based on content. Now, they can suppress speech because people's lives may be in danger. They can suppress speech because there's a threat there. They can suppress speech for the greater good as long as it's not overly broad. But they cannot suppress speech solely based on content. And I know this seems like a lot of academic info here, but it's incredibly important we understand what's going on here, because if you don't understand the lay of the land, how are you going to navigate it? What's going to happen is if you don't understand the lay of the land, you're going to get frustrated. I'm going to get frustrated, and we're going to do things that hurt our cause instead of promote our cause. If we understand how the game works and how things are structured, we can find out how and properly to get our point across and to make the changes necessary. And so if this is overly academic, I apologize, but it's incredibly important we understand what's going on here. And then I hope wherever you're at, you're wise enough to take it, fold it, stick it in your pocket, and pull it out when necessary and draw the parallels to your experience, your situation, whatever's going on. But the takeaway here is that the government cannot suppress speech based on content. And as long as this Exotica Expo, as much as I hate it, fills out the proper paperwork, gets the proper permits, does everything legally that, say, a Christian conference would have to do, the city of Dallas cannot stop it. It can't. And as soon as the city voted 8-7 to not allow this conference, of course this guy went straight to his attorney's office and filed a lawsuit. And that's what he should do. And this is why. I don't promote what he's doing. But the second we allow government officials to suppress speech based on content, that is a slippery, slippery slope. What goes next? Your kids' play where Linus can't explain what the meaning of Christmas is anymore. But not at a school, at the community center. And anything you believe in, you don't get the right to stand up and say it anymore. Religions start getting persecuted. Your viewpoints that you feel passionately about get stomped out, and all of a sudden this groupthink takes control, and it's whatever the government wants. And that, folks, is the foothold that the liberals are after. And so while I applaud what the Dallas City Council is doing by standing up for what they feel is ethical and moral and right and just, and I agree with all of it. I agree with the moral stance. I agree that a sex expo, what is the world coming to? But in the United States of America, we cannot allow anybody to stomp that out because of content. If we do, we are in a world of mess. And while you or I might find it obscene, just like everybody here in Dallas, and it's crazy how it's gone full circle in Dallas, despise this just punk burning the American flag, it is protected speech. And I don't agree with it. And I do not like it. But we have to protect it, because if we don't, anything that we have to say that's important and anything that we disagree with the government about will be suppressed also, because that's what this comes down to. The 15 members of the Dallas City Council voted, and the majority doesn't agree with this guy's cause. There is no physical harm brought to society here. Now we can argue what harm this will have, as far as objectifying women or casualizing sexual relations, things of that nature. We can make that argument, but physically there's no harm. But if we allow the Dallas City Council to take a stand, and while we all agree with this one, it sets a precedent that is incredibly dangerous. And so I wanted to unpack that and let you know that, yes, I hear the cries that we don't want it, but we cannot allow this to happen for the reasons I told you. And so with that said, folks, please tune in to Conservative Radio Network. Ron and his guys have worked very, very hard on that. Man, we're proud of it, and we're proud to be a part of it. And until tomorrow. Yeah, it's Thursday. It's not Friday yet. Until tomorrow, I'm Gavin Mitchell. This has been the Gavin Mitchell Show, and I want to remind you that in the words of the great Ray Wiley Hubbard, on the days I keep my gratitude higher than my expectations, well, I have really good days. I hope to see you February 27th, KLIF. We'll talk tomorrow. Be good.
Thanks for listening to The Gavin Mitchell Show, the voice of the working man, produced in Fort Worth, Texas. If you like what you just heard, subscribe on iTunes and Spreaker.com. These and other links can be found on our website at thegavinmitchellshow.com. Be sure to tell your friends and colleagues about the Voice of the Working Man's daily podcast. Join us tomorrow for another edition of The Gavin Mitchell Show. All opinions expressed by the host or guests on this series are solely their opinions and do not reflect the views, policies, or positions of The Gavin Mitchell Show or its affiliates. This has been a Ron Phillips, Pinnacle Voice Studios production.